Hello, American football fans, and welcome to another NFL UK Ops live show. This week, the NFL is back in London, so it only seems right to have two Brits on the show this week. So we're delighted to have Pittsburgh Owen, who has just reached 1,000 YouTube subscribers, rather. Congratulations for that. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Tom. I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, just recently hit 1,000 subs. It's been a lot of hard work, but yeah, it's been good to get there. I'm sure you'll get there eventually. Just keep up the hard work, mate.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so let's start off how we always like to start off with a question of how did you get into American football and why the Pittsburgh Steelers?
It's a question I'm asking myself at the moment, mate. I'll tell you. Well, I think it all goes back to it's about 1988. Channel 4 was showing American football highlights at the time. Mick Luckhurst was the guy presenting it. It was actually a Brit that kicked in the NFL for Atlanta. I just started watching the highlights one night, got into it, really loved it. I remember first Super Bowl I remember is the 49ers beating the Bengals 2016 with Joe Montana driving them down the field and throwing that pass to John Taylor to win the game. And sort of fell in love with the NFL from then on and decided, well, you know what, if you're gonna watch the NFL, you need to have a team, don't you? Someone to root for. So I'm a bit of a history nerd. So decided to look into the NFL, history of the NFL, went back, studied, really sort of fell in love with the 70s Steelers and, you know, Jack Ham, Jack Lambert, Mean Joe Green, Lynn Swann, Franco, Terry Bradshaw. Chuck Noll obviously was the coach that won the 4 Super Bowls, and he was still there in '88. So that was kind of a link. I love the black and gold colours, so just decided to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And even though they did very badly that season, I think they finished 5-11 or 6-10. I can't remember off the top of my head, but decided to follow the Steelers and been a Steelers fan ever since. So even sort of, you know, we've had some good years with last 18 years and with Big Ben, and I think obviously we're going through that transition period now. So yeah, but still loyal to the Steelers no matter what, even though we are not the best this season.
And so if I offered you, you know, a 5-11, 6-11 season now, would you take it?
No, because I'm a Steelers fan. No, we don't do losing seasons.
I know. And so
I think the problem with being a Steelers fan is, as a franchise, we've been exceptionally spoilt. You know, over the last 18 years, especially with Ben, last 15 with Tomlin. Going back even when Cowher started, I think as a franchise, we're used to winning. We're used to being in the playoffs. We're used to competing for Super Bowl titles, you know, 6 Super Bowl titles. And I think a season where we struggle, it comes as a bit of a shock, comes a bit of I don't know, it's sort of not acceptable in Pittsburgh. And for a Steeler fan, it's just not acceptable to lose. So it's a difficult one to get your head around as a Steelers fan, I think. But I think we have been exceptionally spoiled over the last 18 years.
Absolutely. And just before we do go on to talking about the Steelers, we have got Jake Crosby, who says, "Hey, Owen and Tom from Canada." Is Jake somebody that usually tunes into you, Owen?
Yeah, he's a big Steeler and Penguins fan. He lives in Manitoba in Canada, so yeah, he's a big he's one of my guys. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. And so, last time I spoke to you on your show was just before the Steelers played the Patriots in Week 2. And we had no idea how that was going to go. And it actually ended up being the close game we predicted it was going to be. It was going to be a defensive game and probably decided on a mistake. It ended up being a mistake by a former Patriots player, really, that handed it to the Patriots on the muffed punt. But obviously since then, you know, after last week's loss against the Jets, is this the lowest point the Steelers have been at for a long time, would you say?
To be honest, it's the same as last season. We went 1-3 at the start of last season as well. So in recent years, it's kind of happened, apart from obviously 2020 when we went 11-0 to start the season off with. But the last 2 years, it's kind of happened on a more regular basis. So It's how we fight back from this. And obviously, I hope that we go back to fighting back like we did last season. I mean, we came back when 9-7-1 last season, which was a miracle considering how bad that team was. It's the problem we've really got at this moment in time is the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty around the offense. There's the defense at the moment is banged up, very badly banged up, and the fact that we've lost TJ Watt as well, and the astonishing fact as well, Tom, that we go 0-7 with that when TJ Watt doesn't play. The fact that we seem to become a one-man team. But yeah, we are at a very low point at the moment as a franchise, and we need to come back from it. But unfortunately, I think the next 4 games are a bit of a nightmare run, a bit of a gauntlet. We've got the Bills at Orchard Park on Sunday, then we've got the Bucks coming to Acrisure before we go on a road trip to Miami, and then across the great state of Pennsylvania to play the Eagles, who are looking very good at the moment as well. So it's going to be a tough 4 weeks for us.
And so, how are you feeling about the switch? I know when we spoke, I think you probably would have taken the switch a lot earlier at the QB position. So, how are you feeling about that moving forward now?
Oh, very positive, Tom. I think Kenny Pickett, he just brings something to that offense that Mitchell Trubisky couldn't. You know, he brings energy, he brings spark, and he just, for me, has got so much more football intelligence than Trubisky. If you go back and you watch the second half of that game, and I've gone back this week and I've watched the All-22 footage, I've watched the game again. He's just so smart with the stuff he does. So there was an example where he went up to the offensive line and you could see him looking at the defense. He saw something he didn't like and he changed the protection in the line. He changed the position of some of the players, and then obviously snapped the ball, and the play was a success because of the fact that he reads the defense so much better than Trubisky, and he makes those little changes. The courage. It showed as well. There was an example where Pickett stood in the pocket and he got absolutely nailed by one of the defensive tackles from the Jets, but he got the pass away to Freiermuth. A similar sort of situation happened in the first half. Trubisky gets sacked. He's just got more accuracy. He can throw it further. He's got more spark, more intelligence. And I don't know whether any fans out there who have seen the game or watched the highlights. You watch Kenny in that second half, and the whole time he's smiling, he's laughing, he's talking constantly to the team. He just brings a new energy to the team, and he really did lift the whole crowd and the whole team on Sunday when he appeared. So, yeah, I'm buzzing having Pickett. I think he's going to be fantastic for us.
And so, what is your expectations for the rest of this season from Pickett then?
I basically want to see him grow into being, the franchise quarterback. He needs to be given the chance to succeed. He's going to make mistakes. He's a rookie. All rookies make mistakes in their first year. You guys went through that last year with Mac Jones. But, I really don't see why he can't get us to win more than we lose. I don't think we're going to finish anything like, some of the fans are predicting 14-3 now, which I don't think is at all realistic. But I think, if he can get us to a position where we're finishing 9-8, 10-7, something like that, that is a realistic expectation. But I think it's a great opportunity for him to learn and him to grow this season and develop as the starter, mainly aiming towards next year, because he's going to be the guy for the next 5 years for definitely. That's how long his contract's for. What he does in those 5 years, we don't know. We can't see into the future. But I honestly think that he will really benefit from having this season. And I've got no doubt that he can raise the level of his offense and score more points. You've just got to look at the stats from Sunday. First half, 1 of 6 third down conversions. Second half, 5 of 6 third down conversions. Depth of pass first half, 5.5 yards. Depth of pass second half, 9.1 yards. He just brings a different level to the team, and I'm exceptionally hopeful that he can keep us in contention this year. And
I know one of your biggest bugbears sort of thing was the offensive coordinator is Matt Canada. So how are you feeling about him now?
I think all is not forgiven when it comes to Canada. I think he's still got an awful lot to prove for me as the OC, but he's now got in place a quarterback that best fulfills and fits what he wants a quarterback to do. The fact that Pickett is not scared of throwing it over the middle, the fact that Pickett is not scared of throwing the ball deep, that Canada has no excuses at all now. And I'm not saying that this guy is going to be amazing for the rest of the year. I still have my doubts about him as a coordinator. You know, he's running a college spread offense in the NFL. That's what he appears to be running. Whether that is the case or not, we'll see over these next 13 games that are left in the season. But you've got to be more optimistic that Pickett can make the system work. But I think if it's a situation the offense still doesn't work, then yes, it is Canada. He's had a kind of get out of jail free card because everyone now in Pittsburgh is kind of blaming Mitch Trubisky for everything and saying it was down to him. And whilst they're still not sold on Canada, I think they're going to give him a bit longer because of that. But no, I'm not. I'd say I'll withhold judgment on him till the end of the season. Now he's got Kenny Pickett in place, and we'll see where we are at the end of the season.
So do you reckon it's now Pickett's? It's all or nothing if Pickett can save his job really for next season. Do you reckon?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's down to Pickett to save his job. I mean, a lot of people argue that even Ben, as bad as he wasn't as bad as people thought he was last season, but he was getting on and he was struggling. But I mean, Ben won. The statistics prove that Ben won 7 of 9 games last year for the Steelers. 7 fourth quarter comebacks where it was Ben calling the plays, Ben drawing up the plays in the dirt like he could, effectively save Canada's job. So yeah, I think it is going to be a case of, can Pickett make his system work? And if Pickett can make his system work, then yeah, it is going to be Pickett that pretty much saves this guy's job.
And turning over, obviously, to defense, you touched on it earlier about the importance of TJ Watt and how much they're missing him. Obviously, it's been reported that there's been a bit of a setback with his injury. How much do you know about that, and when are they expecting him back?
So the original diagnosis was 6 to 8 weeks because the pec wasn't torn. Apparently, it was some sort of strain or it was a muscle tear, not a tendon tear. I don't understand that medical side of things, but I mean, there was talk last week from Jason Lackenfora, who's a writer on the Steelers, that he would be back for the Bucs game next week, which would be week 6. But now it looks like there's a strong rumor going around from Steelers writers, the likes of Filipponi and Fittipaldo and Ron Cook, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, that he suffered some sort of setback. Because the reason for that is because he was training, he was seen practicing the previous week before the Jets game, and he was seen as, and what people could see was he was getting back to being the TJ Watt that we all know and love. But then this week and towards the end of that week, he wasn't seen at the training ground. He wasn't in the locker room. He wasn't on the sideline for the Jets game. He seems to have disappeared. And that's, I think, what's caused that worry that it could be a slightly longer term thing. Personally, I think he should be out at least after the bye anyway, because my worry was that they were going to rush him back and then the injury could be re-aggravated. Or it could become a career curtailing injury that would damage his effectiveness. The same way that Mean Joe Green, he had a trapped nerve in his left arm, which he was rushed back from, and he ended up not being as effective towards the end of his career because of that. Now I know Watt's nowhere near the end of his career yet, but we don't, as desperate as we are to get Watt back, we can't afford to rush him back. Whether that setback is right or not, I'm just basically going off what happens. Unfortunately, being stuck here several thousand miles away from Pittsburgh, I can only go off what reporters are saying on the internet and not on social media. So that's where I get it from.
Yeah, but then we obviously on YouTube and on your Steelers Syndicate, you bring as much news and tidbits that you get from your sources as well, don't you? So obviously on a daily basis. So if you do obviously want to keep up with what the Steelers are saying, obviously make sure you do follow Pittsburgh going on YouTube because he gives it all. Yeah. And so looking at this week's game against the Bills, what are your expectations, having to go and face the Red Hot Bills?
I think it is a concern. I mean, the Bills are banged up, which is one positive. I mean, Jordan Poyer is out for them along with Micah Hyde. So they've lost their 2 starting safeties. But by the same token, we've lost. I mean, Fitzpatrick is back and fit, which is a huge help. And Levi Wallace is also back. But Cam Sutton is doubtful. Terrell Edmonds is doubtful. Keller Witherspoon is out long term with a hamstring injury. So our secondary is pretty threadbare. And therefore, you fall on your defensive line and your outside linebackers. And again, that's the outside linebacker position, with the exception of Alex Highsmith, who leads the league in sacks, is fairly threadbare as well. So when you're going up against, the 5th highest scoring offense in the NFL, and you're going up against someone like Josh Allen, it is a worry when your defense is that badly banged up. I think it could turn into a bit of a shootout, to be honest with you. But then again, the Bills allegedly have the best defense in the NFL at the moment. So I'm not overly optimistic, shall I say, going into Orchard Park on Sunday. Or in a way, all I want to see is Pickett come in, make steps forward, Steelers not get disgraced, and just be seen to be making progress on the offensive side of the ball. If I'm being honest, I honestly don't think we'll win this weekend. I just think that the Bills have got too much star power. They've got Josh Allen, they've got Stephon Diggs, they've got Gabe Davis, they've got Devin Singletary, they've got Von Miller. They've just got too much at this moment in time. I have got us going 2-2 into the bye, but I haven't got the Bills down as a game that we win. I just think they're too strong.
Yeah. And so obviously you touched on it earlier about the sort of horror next 4 games that they've got. You've just said you've got them down as 2-2 going into the bye. So where do you see those 2 wins coming from? Obviously away against the Bills, you think they're going to lose. Home to the Bucs, away at the Dolphins, and obviously away at the Eagles. Where the 2 wins coming?
My projection is that we lose to the Bills. I think we'll beat the Bucs. I'm not scared of Tom Brady. I'm not scared of the Bucs. From what I've seen this season from them, I'm not impressed by them at all. I think Brady's starting to show his age a little bit. I think they've got injuries on their offensive side of the ball. They've got offensive injuries on the defensive side of the ball. I think Todd Bowles is an absolutely dreadful head coach. I think, if you look at his record when he was Jets head coach, he was shocking, and I think he's translated that across to the Bucs. And I think the reason why he's getting wins is because he's got Brady, because he's got Mike Evans, he's got Chris Godwin. It's not because of his coaching talent. So it's at Acrisure Stadium, and I think it's time we got the Brady monkey off our back. We've had the Brady monkey on our back for far too long. When he used to come with the Patriots, we always used to get beat by them because of Brady. So I think we'll beat the Bucs. I think the Dolphins, I think we can beat the Dolphins because, again, I know it's a different team now. Mike McDaniel's doing a very fine job with the Dolphins, but you don't know about Tua, where he's at in terms of his recovery. I think that we'll have enough to beat them because I think Flores will bring a good insight into their team, into their players. And having Flores is a secret weapon there. So I think we can beat the Dolphins in Miami. The Eagles, I think, we'll lose to. Mainly, a couple of reasons why I think we'll lose the Eagles. Number one, we haven't won in Philadelphia since 1965. That was the last time we actually were successful. And that's even with the 70s teams. Even the 70s teams didn't beat the Eagles. I mean, that's how much of a curse the Eagles have over us. And the Eagles, for me, look the most complete football team in the NFL at the moment. Their defense looks awesome. They've got some fantastic players on that defense. Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Darius Slay, like Jordan Davis. They've got an offense that can run the ball, that can throw the ball. They've just, Jalen Hurts looks like a good quarterback this season. And Nick Sirianni, their head coach, is someone who really impresses me. So I think we'll lose to the Eagles, but I see the 2 wins coming against the Bucs and against the Dolphins.
Oh, excellent. And so, obviously, Mike Tomlin hasn't had a losing season with the Steelers. And you said earlier that you would like them to obviously Pickett to come in and take them to a 10-7 possibly. Do you honestly believe that the Steelers can make the playoffs this season?
Yeah, I think we can. And people may say, "Oh, you've got black and gold goggles on there," but I think we've got with Pickett. If Pickett can get the offense moving, we've got enough weapons on the offense to cause teams damage. And you look at the rest of the AFC North. The only team in the AFC North that worries me is the Ravens. I think the Ravens are very good this season. They're the only team that concerns me. The Bengals don't concern me at all. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year. The Browns, we were unlucky to lose to the Browns. So in terms of our divisional rivals, I just don't think they're up to the job other than the Ravens. But I just think with the talent we've got on offense, if Pickett, and I know it's a big if, can get that offense moving, then there's no reason why we can't have a winning record this season. We've got George Pickens. It was finally used properly on Sunday, and it was Pickett that was using him. He was 6 targets, 102 yards. 17.5 yards per catch. He was phenomenal. We've got Pat Freiermuth, who, in my opinion, could easily be, as good as the likes of George Kittle and Travis Kelce. You've got Deontay Johnson. You've got Najee Harris, Chase Claypool, if he remembers how to catch the ball. And even without TJ Watt, that defense has done a decent job. Yes, okay, it collapsed a bit against the Jets in the fourth quarter. I think it was tired. But you look even against the Pats, we held the Patriots to under 20 points. We held the Bengals. Even without Watt, you've still got players, as long as they're fit, of the caliber of Minka Fitzpatrick, Larry Ogunjobi, Cam Haywood, Montravius Adams, Miles Jack, Devin Bush. You've still got some serious talent on that defense. So I think, like I said, as long as Pickett can get this offense moving, there's no reason why we can't still compete for a playoff place. I'm not saying we're Super Bowl contenders. We definitely aren't that, but a playoff place would be nice.
Yeah, I think as you said earlier about he's going to bring in confidence, isn't he? He's got that rookie confidence about him. Hopefully, I'm just going to let him loose and let him play with confidence. Mistakes are going to happen, but he's not going to be afraid to make those throws early on in his career because it can't be any worse than what's happened so far with Trubisky. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely not. I mean, Trubisky's looked poor. I mean, as much as I wanted Mitch Trubisky to work out, and I had hopes at the start of the season that after his time in Buffalo that he could work out. Working with Dorsey and Daboll, who are fantastic coaches, and working under Josh Allen, who is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But it can't be any worse than Trubisky because even in half an hour you saw Pickett do the exact opposite of everything Trubisky had done in the first 3.5 games. Trubisky played with fear. He fixated on receivers. He missed targets downfield. He took sacks he didn't need to. I mean, even I can't remember whether it was Canada or whether it was Terrell Austin was talking about the sacks that we'd given up. All the sacks were pretty much on Trubisky, on this terrible habit he had of getting the ball and running out of bounds with it behind the line, rather than throwing it away. So he just lacked confidence. And as our former coach Bill Cowher said, Trubisky was more interested in not losing the game than trying to actually win the game. So yeah, to be honest with you, I don't think anyone could be as bad as what Trubisky was at the start of the season. He was awful.
And so thinking about the rest of the NFL this season, which teams have really impressed you this season, obviously, outside of the Steelers division?
Well, the Steelers haven't impressed me in Tulsa, other than game one against the Bengals. But teams impressed. I've been impressed. The biggest, obviously, is like a team I mentioned a few moments ago, which is the Eagles. I think the Eagles have been fantastic this season. And the Eagles were someone I tipped at the start of the season to be the NFC's representatives in the Super Bowl. So the Eagles have been exceptionally impressive in the NFC. I think the 49ers are coming good as well now that Jimmy G's back as quarterback. I think a lot of people say a lot of bad things about Jimmy G, but what Jimmy G does is he runs that Shanahan system exactly as it needs to be run. So I think the 49ers have impressed me as well. That's the NFC side of the ball. There's a lot of teams in the NFC that are very disappointing, but yeah, I think those two are definitely there. The AFC, well, you've got to say, first of all, the Chiefs, again, just Patrick Mahomes is just on a different level this season again. I mean, that performance against the Bucs on Sunday was just unbelievable again from Mahomes. So the Chiefs have really impressed me. Who else? The Dolphins have done reasonably well. I think they've been quite impressive. The AFC South stinks. But the AFC, I think the Chiefs, Dolphins, and the Bills. The Bills are just a phenomenal football team. They find ways to win when they're behind. They've got a quarterback who can do everything in Josh Allen. He can sling the ball long, short. He can run with the ball, and when he runs with the ball, he runs like a fullback. He just throws people off. And they've got a defense. I mean, that defense of theirs destroyed the Super Bowl champion LA Rams in that game one. So, yeah, the Bills for me have been very, very impressive indeed this season.
And so you said the Eagles were your early favourites for the Super Bowl to get to the Super Bowl this season from the NFC side. So who was your AFC pick?
Bills.
The Bills. Are you
still sticking with Bills Eagles Super Bowl? And I had the Eagles. I got the Eagles winning because, as we know, Buffalo are always choking Super Bowls.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, did you manage to watch the game in London last week? I
saw bits of it on Game Pass. I I know it was a very tight finish, Vikings and Saints, mainly because I'm working for the syndicate. One of the guys who contributes to the syndicate, Trey Wicks, is a big Vikings fan, so I was kind of watching the game for his sake. But I'm definitely looking forward to watching the game this Sunday with the Packers and the Giants, because as someone made the point, it's the first time in London we've had two teams with a winning record play each other. So, and also, the Giants and the Packers are very well supported in London, and in England from like studies. I think it was the YouGov did a survey, and the Packers and Giants came out third and fourth most supported teams in the UK. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that game. I think it should be a very interesting game.
Yeah, and because this season has been a crazy season in terms of some of the results and the parity. I mean, ourselves who are trying to predict scores each week, it's been absolutely shocking so far, especially a couple of weeks ago. I mean, the Packers in some games have looked strong. Last weekend, the Patriots took them to overtime, with a third-string rookie quarterback. Rodgers did not look good for 3 quarters of that game at all. And then you've got, obviously, on the other side, you've got the Giants, who I think everybody wrote them off at the start of the season. Obviously, we know that Daboll is a very good coach, but stepping into a head coaching role, we didn't know how that was going to turn out, and all of a sudden they found themselves at 3-1, and so it's just been a crazy season so far. Do you see that continuing, or do you see the better teams sort of striding out now?
I don't. I think that the NFL have got exactly what they wanted through the way they've done the way they've constructed the NFL, and it's nice actually, because there's, like you said, it's parity, isn't there? There's more parity in the NFL. It's that any given Sunday, isn't it? Any given Sunday, any team can beat any team. And, the fact that one thing I like about the NFL is obviously that you've got that salary cap that restricts teams so you haven't got one team that can just buy the championship, like you have in soccer in England, where, Man City can just buy it. So now I think the parity will continue, because it's been interesting this year, because you've got the Jags pretty much leading the South, which near the top of the South, which no one would have seen coming at the start of the season. The Dolphins been a contender in the East again, no one would have seen that. The Chargers doing the usual Charger thing and choking, yet everyone had them winning the West this year. So yeah, I can't. I think it's gonna be a crazy, crazy season. I just genuinely think that on any given Sunday, anything can happen and anyone can beat anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, are you? Do you watch? Have you been to a London game? Sorry, before.
Not yet, no, because I would only go to a Steelers game, and I didn't manage to get to the Minnesota Steelers game when Steelers were over here for reasons of the ex-wife. But no, I would love to get to a London game, but it would have to be the Steelers. But Mark and I were actually talking about Mark Davison of Steelers Nation Australia, which is another great channel to check out. He and I were talking last night before our live that we did about going to a game. And to be honest with you, I'd rather if I'm going to go to a game, I'd rather go into a game in the States. I'd rather go to a game in Pittsburgh, in Acrisure Stadium. Nothing against the London games, but it's just, that is where the Steelers are supposed to play. It's Acrisure Stadium. You're surrounded by 65,000 crazy yinzers. That is where I'd rather go and watch them play if I'm going to go and watch them play.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of coaches that have come across do find it difficult playing, obviously, in London because of the crowd, because obviously when you're in your own home stadium and you're on offense and everything's quietened right down, and when your defense is out there and everyone's raising the volume, but obviously in London at times, everyone's cheering all the time, so it can be difficult.
Yeah, you went off a bit there at the end, Tom. I couldn't actually hear what you said, but
it can be difficult for teams coming over to London at times because of the crowd, because you've got so many fans of different teams there.
Yeah,
that the crowd noise is always seems to be high. I mean, I've been to a couple of games and the crowd noise is always very high, and coaches have talked about that in the past, about it being difficult because they used to, obviously, when their team's on offense at home, for it to be quiet, and then obviously when your defense is out there to be loud.
Yeah.
So they have found it difficult to do that.
I think this Sunday, though, you might see a change in that. I think you might see a more partisan atmosphere, given the fact that the Packers and the Giants are so popular over here anyway. The fact that they are two of the biggest supported teams in the UK, you might see a different sort of atmosphere there this Sunday. I mean, it obviously depends how the tickets have been sold, but there could be a chance, obviously, that there is a more partisan atmosphere this coming Sunday.
And so Packers were obviously the only team that hadn't been across to the UK yet. And so obviously loads of fans are going to be there for that. Who do you see coming out on top in that game?
Do you know what? I think that if the Giants can play as they've played this season, if they can keep the defense doing what they've done, they can shut Rodgers down. I have not been impressed with Rodgers at all this season. I think he's starting to get to the Ben Roethlisberger type a season too far. Plus, if the Giants can establish the running game with Saquon the way they have so far this year, they've had a resurgence in Saquon Barkley. I can see the Giants winning a close one, to be honest with you. I think Daboll just seems to know how to make them win. So I think it'd be another close one like the Vikings Saints was last week, something like 23-20 or 2017. But I can actually see the Giants winning and going to 4-1.
Yeah, I agree. As I said earlier about Rodgers and the Packers against the Patriots last week, he's really missing Devontae Adams, and that's clear. He's not connected with his receivers, and when he needed his receivers to step up in overtime and towards the end of the fourth quarter, he started targeting Cobb, and Mr. Old Reliable, that played with him for many years, and obviously he was complaining a lot in training camp and preseason about the rookie receivers and the misses that they were having, and that was evident again. Deuce dropped a potential game winner in normal time in the end zone. So he's got clear frustrations and the time is completely off at the minute. So it'd be interesting to see if they can get that. So I think if they can get that sorted, Rodgers is still got it, but there are problems on offense, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. I mean, their defense has kind of carried them, hasn't it, so far this season? J.R. Alexander, for example, and they have got some good players. So their defense is carrying them. But I think, I can see them struggling. Like I said, I'm very impressed with what the Giants have done this season, the way they're playing the game, the way Daboll has got them playing the game, the way that he's getting the best out of a very average quarterback in Daniel Jones. Like I said, he's got Saquon back to where he was. I'm a Penn State fan in college football, and Saquon was great for us at Penn State. So he's got him back to how he was in that rookie season. So I'm really impressed with what Daboll is doing, and Kayvon Thibodeau and others. I just think the Giants have got that little bit more than the Packers have, which you would have said was crazy over the last few seasons. But like you said, I think you're 100% correct. Rodgers he's missing Adams. He's got no real weapons there. He's lost Marquez Valdez-Scantling as well, who went to the Chiefs. So, and they didn't replace them. I mean, Christian Watson obviously is a rookie. Romeo Doubs is a rookie. You've got Randall Cobb, and they got, was it Sammy Watkins they picked up as well? Yeah. But I think he's injured at the moment.
He's injured.
Yeah.
So, with this weekend, with your game against the Bills, are you live streaming this week?
I'll be live streaming as usual on my channel. Yeah, watching the game. Definitely watching it. Yeah, I'm doing a post game on the Syndicate as well, talking about the game afterwards. So yeah, it's intense. It's a very busy Sunday, I'll tell you. Just loads going on. Obviously, it's 3 hours of talking through the game, and then obviously doing the 45 minute Syndicate post games. It's a lot, but yeah, looking forward to doing another live stream.
And so obviously you don't just do Pittsburgh Going and obviously the Steelers Syndicate. Do you want to talk a bit about the YouTube sort of channels that you've got and what you sort of produce for those?
So yeah, like you said, I've got the Pittsburgh Going, which is my main one, my Steelers, and my Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate, which I work for a great bloke called Grid, who does the Detroit Lions Syndicate. But I also do, I've just sort of started pushing a channel that I started a while ago, but didn't really do a lot on, which was, I'm a huge NHL fan as well, love ice hockey. So I've got a channel called Pittsburgh Penguins Kingdom, where I talk about the Penguins, and obviously the NHL season starts Tuesday. It starts Thursday for Friday morning for the Pens against the Coyotes. So yeah, I do a lot of work on that. I've also got a streaming channel as well, which is Pittsburgh Sports USA, where I stream NFL games. I will be streaming NHL games and then NBA games once the NBA season starts as well. So really got to focus on the American sports side of things. That's where I'm doing the majority of my work now. So they're my channels that I work on.
And so now that you've hit 1,000 subscribers, everything that YouTube creators aspire to, that's one of the first goals. What are you sort of hoping to do moving forwards? Is any bigger plans or anything like that moving forward? Or
Yeah. So, I mean, the long-term plan, obviously, we've got the syndicate, which is monetized now. So syndicate has got over 1,000 subscribers. It's got the watch hours we needed. My channel has got the subscribers and the watch hours. So my aim now is to try and get at least one more of the other channels to be monetized. My long-term aim is to do this full-time, to talk football full-time, to talk Steelers, Penguins full-time, to give time for something I've got a passion for. You know, my good mate Grid, who runs the Detroit Lions syndicate, he pretty much does a little bit of Uber and DoorDash on the side, but he does YouTube pretty much all the time, and that's what I want to do. That's what I aspire to. You know, the next 2 to 3 years to be doing this full time. And I know it's weird, an Englishman talking about American sports, but I think that kind of gives us a unique selling point, you know, for yourself and for me as well, as British people talking about American sports. And I think it's interesting to get for the Americans to have that outside perspective on their sport. So yeah, that's my long-term aim, is to do this full time.
That's brilliant. And when you're talking about, obviously, ourselves talking about it from a British perspective, do you see there being a British franchise in the future? Can you envisage that?
I know there's been talk of it. There has been talk of it, and then there was talk of the Jags being the British franchise. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think there will be in the short term. I think, you know, you've got other US cities that are crying out for a franchise over there if there is any expansion. I mean, I haven't heard the NFL talk about expanding the league at all in recent years. I mean, you've got cities like St. Louis, obviously, who lost the Rams. I know they would love a franchise. You've got other cities in Texas, San Antonio, Austin, that would love a franchise. So you've Portland, Oregon. There's loads of places, I think, that would love to have a franchise over there. So I think that's the only issue that would come up against, I think. And also the fact that, you know, in the past, British franchises have had a very short shelf life, haven't they? You know, I know we have teams still now in the British Football League and the BFL, but I think it's called, I don't really know, but it's something like that. But remember the London Monarchs? They only lasted for a short period of time. They burnt so brightly, but then they just flamed out completely. And I think that is the worry, I think, would be from the NFL, that if they did bring a permanent franchise over here, would it be sustainable?
Yeah. And I mean, it'd be great for guys like us, you know, if they did, because you know that then puts more focus on for us. Would you, if we did get a British franchise, would you still stick with the Steelers, or would you move to the British franchise?
Steelers till I die.
Steelers always.
Yeah, black and gold through and through. I wouldn't swap.
Yeah, excellent. I think exactly the same here. No, there'd definitely be a little bit of a second team following, because obviously they're from the UK, but you know, you've got to stick with the team that you've picked to begin with, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What did it say? You can change your wife, but you can't change your football team.
Absolutely.
I've kind of done that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And thank you so much again for joining us, Owen. We really appreciate it, NFL UK Ops. I just want to say, make sure that you do follow Owen on Twitter at Pittsburgh Owen, and make sure you subscribe to him on YouTube at Pittsburgh Owen, Steelers Syndicate, also the NHL with the Pittsburgh Penguins as well. Okay, and you had another one as well. Is it Steelers Live podcast, did you say?
Pittsburgh Sports USA.
Yeah. Okay, so make sure you check him out on there. Excellent content daily as well. So make sure you do follow him on there.
Thank you.
Again, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thank you very much. And make sure then you subscribe to our channel as well, okay, at NFL UK Ops, and follow us on Twitter as well. And we'll see you next time.